guest tonight is the one and only Kalyna, lead singer of the band November Underground out of Selkirk, Manitoba. So quick sidebar here. I've been lead singer, I should say, for November Underground on many occasions. It's been an amazing experience over the past 2 years. And we're going to talk about the energy that is November Underground and everything Kalyna as well today. So this is exciting. We're really good friends, and we have an excellent view on the music industry and the authenticity and what that entails moving forward. It's everything that makes a musician who they are and what makes their following that much more important. So we had a talk one time, and you were telling me when you're 18, you started singing, getting up the guitar and such. You're 24 now.
Yeah.
What is the inspiration for that?
Okay, so basically, the reason that I started actually like writing songs and going out and singing was when I was 18. I was living at my grandmother's at the time, and I had a lot of stuff going on. So
Right.
I finally figured out one day by reading poetry, because I did a lot of poetry at the time, that poetry and song lyrics are pretty much the same freaking structure. And
Yeah.
back to the code, that's how you write a song. Because every singer has this, every songwriter has that moment where you're like, okay, I can't write a song. You do it for like years and years, and then like something clicks and you're like, oh, actually this is how you do it. It takes you forever to figure it out, but once you do, you're like, you're good, you got it. But the reason that I actually started like going out and doing stuff was I met someone at the time who was an old friend of mine from high school, and he was like, hey, you want to come with me to this open mic in Selkirk? And I was like, yeah, I'd like to come with you to this open mic in Selkirk. And from there, that was actually the open mic that Ronnie Ladderbrook at the time was hosting.
Right.
Actually, that's when I met Ronnie for the first, well, not for the first time. I actually went to high school with him, but like really
Nice.
first time. And Dean, who was the previous manager of the merch, and then Jay, who's current security there. And all of three of them were mostly Jay and Dean, but Ronnie as well. All three of them encouraged me to continue doing music and songwriting. So that's kind of where I am now.
Yeah, shout outs to the merch. I'm going to do that right now and get right into it. As Kalyna has a shirt on from the merch. Quick story with that. The merch was the first, since I've been in Manitoba, I've been here since '02. That was the first bar that I performed at with a former group I was in called Twofold, a hip-hop R&B duo. And the merch is like cheers to me. They welcome me with open arms each and every time. So shout out to Dean, Big J, Lindsay, all the staff there. Amazing folks. So.
Yeah, no, the merch is honestly just legit instrumental in even just November Underground being a band. Like we wouldn't exist without that open mic actually being there. So.
Right. Exactly. Now with starting out, how did you decide it was your career after what you just told us about? This is how it was established. This is a friend got you into it. Now, how did you decide this is what I want to do?
Basically, see, it's funny because it's like if you can't really think of like that moment where you're like, okay, this is exactly what I want to go with this. Like I'm making a decision. It's kind of more of like you start doing it and then you gradually realize that you really don't want to stop doing it.
Right.
But okay, so how can I make this a career? I would say probably the first year of doing open mics, I was starting to seriously look and shop around for people to play with, because at that point it was like, okay, well, no, like I really, really enjoy being on the stage. I really enjoy playing music and just seeing people enjoy what I'm playing and like just dancing and just being in the moment with each other, because that's really what music does. It really kind of brings everyone together who's in the room just for that moment,
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what made me think like, okay, so after that first year of doing open mics and stuff, I was like, okay, so like how can I make it, And the other thing too was I honestly didn't think I had the ability to make it a career myself. I didn't think I was very good, but because I didn't think I was that great. Jay and Dean though, they kept telling me that I had the ability to do that, to make it a career if I really wanted to. So I decided, well, why not? I guess, enough times I'm being told this, I might as well give it a try.
Absolutely. When and where did you come up with the name November Underground?
Okay, November Underground is actually, I came up with it before this band formed.
Okay.
And it's actually a combination of my favorite poem by Sylvia Plath, which is called A Letter in November, and a little known book called The Madman Underground, which is set in the 1970s. And I just basically took half of each and went, okay, look, there we go. Because I don't know if you know this, but I'm pretty sure you do. And everyone who's ever tried to make a band should know this, but every band name is taken. Every
Yeah.
right? So you're on Google and you're on Facebook typing in band names trying to see if it hasn't been taken, and it always freaking has.
Yeah.
So
That's why I came up with twofold. I had to really figure out a different way to figure out how it was going to be spelled, because I was like, uh-oh, there's like two folds all over the place. And then it became 2FLD, twofold, but either way I liked it. But I totally hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I swear to God, at least for the first band that I was in, we spent like a good half an hour just typing in names just to see if it's taken. And every single one was, like, every single thing you can think of, it's already been taken. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, if you take something usually that you smash something together, you have a better chance, I found.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, that's where the name came from initially.
What would you define the genre? It's difficult. I'm not just saying that just because I've played and sang with your band. It's just what genre would you consider it? What were the inspirations musically, or whom were inspirations?
See, I would say that we're like, every member in the band has different inspirations, I would say. Like, we all have like similar music tastes, but we all have different, things that we would say we'd be aspiring to, or aspirations to us, right? Or different things to work towards, right?
Yeah.
Personally, I would say, because we have such an eclectic, like, all of us are such eclectic music listeners that we can't, like, whenever someone asks me this question, I'm like, the best thing I can say is alternative rock, because we do so many different genres of songs that I can't really say, like, oh, I can't say we're rock, because we do, some screamo, and we do, some more softer stuff, but I can't also say that we're screamo because we do one song with that, and some, everything else is kind of not. So it's like, okay, but wait, so what do you call us then? So I just say alternative rock, because that's kind of the more broader term that kind of like, it kind of encompasses everything in a sense.
Right.
But yeah, kind of the best thing I can put it in. It's always a difficult question. I hate getting that question.
So when you first started out, obviously you were a solo artist. You started gaining the confidence, started getting involved more with music. Now, how did that change? And when you started a band, and was there any change when you started a band and went from solo artist to band? Was that transition difficult? Was it something that was just part of the process?
I would say that it was a really good learning experience, because it's definitely different doing it on your own than doing it with someone else. It's been a bit different for me too, because every band that I've been in, I've always been the sole songwriter. There's usually, if there is one song that someone else has written, I've usually still added lyrics to it.
Right.
There was one song in the first band I was in, and there was one song early on that we used to play in November Underground that someone else had written. But I still actually was asked to do lyrics for both of those, so I actually still wrote part of those. Anyway, so I've always been the sole songwriter, so that's kind of always, been the same going from band to band. I would say that depending on who you're with, depends on what kind of style you write, because when you're with someone else, you can feed off what they do, and they'll have other ideas, or they'll have things they want to bounce off you, or they'll have some other way that they want to try things that you might not have thought of, right? So it definitely changes how you play as a person. It definitely changes about how you think of your music, and how you, when you write a song, how you craft it, because then you're not just like, it's not just you going, okay, so this is how I want to write a song, and this is what I normally do. It's them going, okay, well, what if we tried this? And then you did this. And it kind of just elevates it, in my opinion, honestly. But yeah, absolutely. I would say the main difference between singer and songwriting is the ability to feed off other people, and just kind of makes it that more fuller experience, I find. And
it's more inclusive that way as well, right? So
absolutely.
So we talked a few moments ago about the merch and how important that is to both of us. Now, with the merch, actually, when I was speaking with my partner in Living Music Winnipeg, Jackie Shaw, shout out to Jackie Shaw, we were talking about artists, regardless of age demographic and when they're coming up, why it's so imperative for them to be able to know all elements, the performance side, the stage performance side, the songwriting, as well as the setup. Now, I know you do a lot of that. You've done that, helped us out with Living Music Winnipeg, which I appreciated, for our own concerts, for mine. how important is that to know all of what's going to happen so that when you get on stage, everything is just like, okay, we're ready.
It's really important. Like, for example, if you've never used a monitor before, you're gonna get up stage and be like, wait, what? Because when you sing, you're not used to being able to hear yourself that clearly. You're not. Right. It throws you when you get on stage and you've never used a monitor before. I mean, it threw me the first time I got on stage and I was like, whoa, okay, what? I can hear myself. This is new. And the first time the soundboard is like, what do you want in your monitor? You're like, what do you mean? What do I want in my monitor? I didn't even know I had a monitor. Like, but yeah, no, I mean, like, even just working with other people on stage too, especially even if it's not just you on stage, like you have to think about if there's someone else on stage with you, because that changes things too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And yeah, no, like just having the experience, because yeah, it can really throw you the first time you get on the stage if you've never been on one and you're not used to the way that one works, especially if you're a singer and you're not used to telling the sound guy stuff. Hey, can I get a little bit more of my highs here? Hey, can a little bit more of me in the mod? Especially too if you don't have the confidence, because half the time you'll be like, I don't want to ask for things because I feel bad for asking for things.
That's true.
And yeah, that's the thing that I think that especially open mics help with, is confidence to actually just get up on the stage and to deal with those things and to be able to learn about how, you know, doing a show works and how those things work and all the things that are involved with it, you know, like having the confidence to do that is a really big part of it.
Absolutely. And also testing out new songs, as we both know. Like, I tested out a song when I was in Twofold before I became a solo artist, whereas it was a new song and I tested out open mic, and you have those nerves and you might forget some parts. But that's all part. Nobody is perfect. That's a known fact. It's about building from and learning from your mistakes, such as life. This isn't anything I've came up with or invented. It's just embracing that and then moving forward. Especially as a musician, it helps because it gives others that confidence that, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make a mistake here and there. I'm gonna learn from it. And really, it's really only the person who's making that mistake that's realizing it, because they're concerned about everybody else, what everyone else is thinking. It's just really an internal thing that overcomes with confidence. Practice makes perfect, you know, in a sense, and go from there. So I agree with you. It's totally elemental to not only know your surroundings, but also be able to say, you know, I'm going to make mistakes along the way, but I'm going to learn from them. But it's going to make you a better person in the beginning, rather than be super polished and nothing ever goes wrong, and then something does, and then everything just collapses, right? And that's, especially with musicians, that's imperative, because you got to learn from that, right? So.
Yeah, honestly, I think the one thing that was, at least for me, was hardest to learn was that it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's make mistakes on stage. And especially, honestly, if you're doing an original song, half the time no one's going to know you even screwed up because they've never heard it before.
Right.
I tell this to people who've just started playing for the first time too, because they're so nervous to get it. Like I was too, like, you know, you're so nervous to get up on the stage, and you're so nervous to, like, especially when you're playing something you wrote, you know, you're nervous to play it. But like, I see so many people, and I used to do this too, where if you screwed up, you just stop playing. You
yeah, I do too. Or stop rapping, stop singing, like, oh, wait, what? But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and what I say is, like, even me, like, man, if I screw up now, I might screw up and keep going, or I'll screw up, say something, and then restart. Because at the end of the day, they don't know that you screwed up.
Exactly.
And the crowd is actually a lot more forgiving of you screwing up and having the confidence to continue than than you think they are, you know, like they're a lot more forgiving, especially if it's your first time. Like I've been to a lot of open mics, and one thing that I can tell you for sure is that the crowd will always be very forgiving.
Yeah.
Open mic, especially if you are at an open mic and you are new, it's your first night there, or you're a fresh face, everyone's going to be there, and they're going to be like, you know what, it's okay. Like, we've been there too. We understand, you know, like, we get it. It can be hard. It can be so nerve-wracking to stand on a stage and there's, like, you know, 20, 30 people in front of you. It can be really nerve-wracking. Like, you definitely understand the same thing, right? And I mean, it can be even worse when you aren't with a band too.
Yeah.
Like when younger kids come into open mics, or just, you know, starting out as solo artists, man, like that was the most nerve-wracking, at least for me personally, because you're by yourself. You don't even have anyone else up there to, like, look like an idiot with you, you know?
Well, just a message here that Brent Allery, shout out to Brent Allery from Wreck and Sew, he had mentioned as well, is that you just never stop, you keep going. right? Because, and
Yeah.
he's right. Shout outs to Ronnie Loudenbrook as well from Reckon. So is just, you just keep going. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from that. And it just shows that you're not invincible because no one is. And that's great insight because I truly believe, I know in my heart that a lot of musicians need to hear that no matter what their skill level is.
Yeah.
That's one of the main reasons I hope an open mic as well. Like, it doesn't make me any greater than the person who's this is their first time, because that was my first time once upon a time too, right? So
Yeah, I think that like there's definitely some just musicians who do forget that. It's
yeah,
like, you know, everyone has their first time. Like, you sounded just like that, dude. Like,
yeah,
you know, not sound like that, but I'm sure 20 years ago you did.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So what are some of the growing pains that you've developed, or have developed, I should say, being a solo artist, songwriting in that context, or being in a band where there might be changes, unforeseen circumstances, as they say, that you've really had to overcome?
Yeah, you know, that's the one thing, man, is you got to get used to things just happening that you're not expecting, like things just getting thrown at you. And I think a big part of that too is I have met quite a few musicians where things get rough and they were like, I'm gone, I quit. And
Yeah.
that's kind of when you need to like be like, no, actually, I'm gonna keep going, because that's from my experience, that's kind of what made the best music. That gave me my best material.
Right? Yeah.
But
So what?
all jokes aside, though, like seriously
Yeah.
though, from things that, you know, you may not think you can come back from, if you still push yourself to continue with music, it will be a rewarding experience. It
Oh,
will,
absolutely.
as a musician, you know.
How tricky is song selection? Like, for example, I'm going to plug it now, and the Untitled album by November Underground will be out soon. Kalyna
Yeah,
will let you know when. But how is the song selection for that? Because there's what, 10, 12 songs on there? How'd that go?
10.
10, okay. And
Yeah,
how is the selection? Like, how did you decide, okay, these are the 10 that we want? Because myself personally, that's always a tricky one too, to say, how many songs do we want for this? What songs do we want for this? And
yeah.
the impact on those.
So we had about 10 when we were starting to record songs. So that's why we did 10. And then we actually wrote 2 afterwards. So we actually left 2 songs out of the CD, if I remember correctly. One for sure. But we left a couple off. But we did actually include one of the new ones on the CD. So we left, I can't remember if we left one of the ones that we used to play out and we just added one, or if we just added one of the new ones. I don't actually recall.
Right. That's fine.
Bring all the great things that I should be knowing. But anyway, that's basically what we did. So we have 9 of the original tracks that we've been playing for the last, you know, almost 3 years now. And then we have one new one that I think that one's been around for 5 months, 4 months, not that long. But yeah, so that's like this basically the way that we decided. I mean, it was actually harder to decide the order of the set list than it was to decide the set, because we pretty much had enough songs to make a CD, and then we wrote a couple extra. I was like, okay, now we decide what we want.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was actually harder to deciding the order, because that's kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of like an important part for all of the members of the band, is deciding what the order is, because that decides how the CD is going to flow for whoever listens to it, right?
Right. Excellent. No, that totally is relevant, and it's a process, right, as we both know. So it's just about making the decisions that are in the best interest of everyone, and songs that everyone's contributed to, because those are the type of songs that everyone, as in everyone being the audience, can relate to, right? Yeah. So with one thing I teach with Living Music Winnipeg is stage presence in the artist development curriculum. So with that being said, November Underground has a stage presence. I've watched it. I've been part of it. How did that come about? How did it come to that point where it's this eclectic, eccentric look, sound, and maintaining your authenticity in it? Just being your guys' self. How was the team huddle with that to say, this is our vision, guys, let's do this?
To be honest, the stage presence is literally authentic, because it is. We're not planning anything. We don't plan anything. Like,
Right.
Especially for things like, for example, me taking my shirt off on stage, which I do quite often. The reason I'm doing that is not a gimmick. I am actually overheating. I get really hot really fast, and I can overheat. I have actually thrown up at a show after the show was done because I overheated. It was at Cavern because the cabin was always notoriously bad for summer shows due to having no air conditioner and really horrendous air circulation down there. But like people assume it's a gimmick, right? Or like stuff that me and Orvis will do on stage, or me and Mark will do on stage. Like the only thing that I can even think of right now that we actually have planned is just that when we do Hold Me by the Trues, that I hold the cowbell for Mark. That's the only thing we actually planned, and even then I didn't plan that. I just kind of started doing it and we liked it.
You have any ideas? Speaking of which, I'll touch base on that. It just came to mind. Any plans once everything settles? Any covers that come to mind? It doesn't have to be one in specific, but anyone that you just kind of like you've been wanting to work with for a while? Because I know on the November Underground page about a month ago, you guys put up a poll about what songs would you like the band to cover. Has any resonated with you?
Well, I know that, for example, I'm trying to remember which, because we had a couple polls up actually for a while there. I know that there's definitely some stuff from the Trues and definitely the Glorious Sons that we really like doing. I definitely like playing with those bands a lot. I think that if we did some covers by them, or even if we did like a cover night, that'd be really fun. I think actually this is going to be funny, but Billy Talent or Bum Terror actually are both bands that I would love to do more covers of.
Anything specific from Billy Talent? Because they've got quite a catalog. You know, they've been around longer than people think. They've been around since at least 2001, from what I recollect. But yes, go ahead.
I'm trying to remember because like there's because I have like basically every CD of theirs except for one, which is the new if I recall. There's a lot of them that I would like to do. I probably do. Man, you're putting me in a spot because I don't want to pick. Like,
point. Maybe you can't remember it. It's okay. It's Billy Talent generated one of their songs, whatever album.
Because for example, like I would probably like to do Veronica because that's not something probably like that's not probably your standard cover song by them. Most people probably do Veronica.
Nice. That's a great choice.
No, I really actually it's one of my favorites by them is Veronica. I really like that. I always really like that song. I'm just trying to remember because there was the not the Viking Death March, but there was another one from their I can't remember what it was called, but it was like their Deep Sea album.
Okay.
It's the best thing I can think of to call it because like it basically has a cover of them, the undersea stuff on it. I'm trying to remember what the album was called, but there's a lot of good ones on that one as well, which were really, really solid. I should actually look up their new stuff too because I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Look at me go, such a good fan.
So with recording and performing, I won't ask which one you like better, but how do they go hand in hand? Recording an album, recording solo song, what have you, and then the performance side of it, albeit performing those same songs or just performing in general, whether it be covers or what have you.
What do you mean, like the difference between the both of them, or how they go hand in hand together?
No, how they go hand in hand, or if there's a difference that you've noticed. Let's go that way.
Well, there's definitely a difference. They do definitely go hand in hand. I do find that with recording, it's really hard to get the same feel as when you're on the stage because, like, you know, it's different when there's 3 other people who are just having a time with you on stage for 30 minutes and just letting, opposed to you sitting with earphones on and hearing their track, right?
Right.
There's definitely a difference in feeling, I find, when you're like you kind of have to like think about the performance while you're singing it to try to like simulate how that feeling felt while you're singing it. Like I always find that it's really hard to get the feeling and the sound of the stage performance translated into recording for that reason. If you're a band that does really has a good stage presence, it can be hard to kind of record that, you know.
Does that go for original and go for covers, or is it both simultaneously?
I mean, honestly, that does go for both. I do think that covers are easier because, you know, it's not your band and you're not like it's you already have that kind of a feeling when you listen to it because you have to have already liked that cover. You have to have already liked that band to want to do it half the time, right? So you kind of have that feeling of every time you listen to it being like in the mood. So it's a lot easier to kind of, at least personally, I find that it's a lot easier to get into the mood with a cover just because I'm already, you know, primed to be in that kind of, you know, headspace. but when I'm on a stage versus as to recording with the original stuff, it's a little harder because a lot of the stuff with the stage, it honestly, yeah, like the presence and it's the other band members, you really do feed off the other people in the band and the energy that they put out. Like, I would not be nearly as energetic as I am on stage if I didn't have the band members that I have. And that has actually been proven because I didn't used to do this before I was with these guys. I was very much standing on stage, pretty much. I did not really move.
Yeah.
But because I feel like I feel the music, I need to when I'm on stage now. Like, it's a feeling. But yeah, but at the same time, though, performing on stage gives you the ability to record a lot easier.
Yes.
It definitely gives you the skills for recording because you're already used to, you know, okay, I have stuff in my ear and I need to listen to stuff to sing for the monitor. Like, you're already used to having a monitor or having an in-ear or something, right? You're already used to that. You're already used to having to, you know, pull back or go forward for if you want to be louder or quieter for the mic and stuff. Like, you've already learned those things, so you're ready to use them in a recording setting.
Excellent. Now, theater, you have, as we talked before, you were involved heavily in theater as a youth, quote unquote. Now, how did that inspire you, if it did, for music, or was it separate? And then the second part of that is theater something you'll revisit as a fine art in the future?
Okay, so theater is definitely something that I've always held near and dear to me. Theater is actually, I would say, part of the reason that I became a musician, because theater and dancing introduced me to my love of the stage. I've always really liked being on a stage. I've always really enjoyed it, right? And I think theater was kind of like the in-between to me finding the perfect thing for me that I wanted to do on stage, because I love theater, but music was the thing that was like, you know,
yeah.
It was that one step away from, you know, it was like this close. It was so close, but like music was the real thing. Because the real difference between music and theater is, in theater, you're kind of pretending to be someone else. And that's what I liked about it, you know. It's like removing your skin and putting someone else's on for 30 minutes to an hour or whatever you're doing it for, you know. But with music, you have to be yourself. You kind of, well, I mean, if you're doing a cover band or if you're doing like a stage performance, you know, I kind of get that. But at least for me and for a lot of the people that I know, you have to be yourself. You know, it's almost like forcing yourself to be really freaking honest, especially with not only yourself but with the audience, because like you're telling them a lot of the time, at least with the stuff that I've written, and I know with yourself as well, you'll put a lot of yourself in it.
Absolutely.
And, like, your feelings and the things you're going through, so it's literally like as honest as you can be. So yeah, I definitely think that theater played a part in me finding music and finding out that that's how I really liked being on the stage, for sure. But theater is still something that I do want to revisit, and I am currently still trying to do a web show right now that I believe I told you about beforehand. It's kind of in hiatus, so I don't really know what's going on with it, but it was supposed to be a web series that I auditioned for. Just a small part, but yeah.
Excellent. And on that note, speaking of auditions, is acting something that you feel you'll get involved with? Not because it's similar to theater, but it's just another part of your personality. Is it something you've ever considered?
I would like to. For me, it comes down to like availability and means to get there and do stuff, right? That's what it comes down to. But I would love to do that because theater's always been something that I've really liked and I've really loved and enjoyed. It's always been a big part. And the other thing that I forgot to mention is theater's part of the reason that I can sing, because theater teaches you to project really well. And that's something that you would probably know as well. It teaches you to use your diaphragm.
Right. Well, elaborate a little bit more for the audience and tell us exactly what you were just touching base on, for sure.
Most people don't actually use their diaphragm or don't really know how to use their diaphragm as well as an actor or an opera singer. And the reason for that is in most theaters and in most theater schools, they teach you how to project because they don't want you to have to use a mic. The goal is to get your voice to the back of the theater. The goal is to be as loud as possible so that people can hear you, and a mic is not necessary. So because of that, they teach you to use your diaphragm. They teach you to try and get used to using those muscles and to try to push your voice louder. So I found that a lot of people who either start in theater and go to music, or people that are in music and then learn theater, they gain a better control of their vocals just for that reason, is because you get taught to project. A lot. You get taught to project a lot.
Right? Absolutely. So it's all tying together, which is amazing. Now, musical inspirations. When I say that, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone in the industry. It could be a teacher. It could be a family member. Who inspires you to write music from start to now to the future? Who's that person or that? Yeah.
Honestly, partly, this is gonna be a weird answer, but partly my grandfather.
Nice.
Like Guido, he actually was a poet. He passed away when I was 10, but he was a poet. He was the only family member in my entire family that played a musical instrument.
Wow.
He passed away before I actually learned how to play guitar, so I never got to have that, that connection with him. But I did have his books. I did have his poetry books. And I kind of always, that's part of why I actually started writing poetry, is because my Guido used to. Nice. And the reason that I kind of got into writing and figured out that poetry and writing and, songwriting were the same thing is because I started writing poetry because of my Guido. And I kind of always think about that too now too, because I'm the only family member who actually continued doing anything like that in terms of like music or the arts. I'm the only one who pursued a career in that kind of lane. Guido never actually pursued that career, but he did self-publish. So yeah, I would definitely say that that would actually be my biggest inspiration for writing is my Guido.
That's amazing. Now, and thanks for sharing that. Now, when it comes to as musicians, we maintain our authenticity. We were talking about that earlier. Now, you and I have shared stories about how important that is, and you have as well tonight. Myself personally, briefly, I'll mention when I started rapping before I was starting to sing and take singing as seriously as I did emceeing. I was compared to a lot of others, the Nas's, the Jay-Z's, and hey, why don't you sound like them? And I would say, well, I want to sound like AMC. And you get a lot of cold shoulders in that instance. And that's fine. That's the learning experience. That's where it differentiates one being fabricated and one being themselves, is what I'm saying. Now, in a market where, especially you being a female lead singer of a band, and if you are in any genre of music, it's going to be, you need to sound this way. Unfortunately, you need to sound this way. You need to do this. You need to do that. So aside from the authenticity, how moving forward is it going to inspire you to help others, female lead singers, leading an all-female band, all-male band, what have you, to say, no, stick to your guns. This is, be who you're about.
Honestly, at the end of the day, I just want to help other people realize that if you have the confidence, if you want to try to do something, there will be people that will support you, because I think that's the biggest thing. And that's a big reason why I try to help you with open mics, and a big reason why I try to like offer my services to stuff like that, or I try to do, fundraisers or charities, is because the biggest thing that we as musicians can do is to help other musicians. Honestly. And when I say that, I don't mean musicians that are above, although yes, it's good for us to work together, but I'm generally talking about the ones below, the ones that are just starting out. Yeah. The ones that actually need someone to look at them and say, hey, you know what, you sound pretty good. I think you should continue to do that. Because that's something that most people, if they don't hear that, they might put the guitar down. They might stop writing because no one's told them that they should continue because they sound good. Right. Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't continue from, because you want to yourself, but one does need to hear at least once in a while that, by the way, you don't just think you're good. I think you're good too, like, it's not just you. Because that's the other thing. People want to know that they aren't just doing this for themselves and that they aren't just doing it because they think they're good, but that other people actually like what they're doing, and other people enjoy what they're doing, and other people want to support it. Like that's a big part of the musician community that I like, is the fact that a lot of us will support each other. We will share each other's shows. We will be like, yeah, come to this, come to this, come to this, And like moving forward, I want to do more things like that. I would like to do more things which involve helping people gain that confidence to move forward with, if they want to have a career in it, then yeah, you know what, do it. You can do it. Like, go ahead and do it.
What are the plans for touring for November Underground?
I mean, like, it's kind of weird asking that to any musician right now, because everyone's like, I don't know, man, I don't even know what I'm playing next.
Yes, in the future when things settle down, for lack of a better term.
Ideally, like we were this year, we were supposed to actually be doing a bit of a tour. We were going to be doing a tour when we released the album, around Eastern and Western Canada. Mostly we were going to Airbnb around Toronto and then hit around that area for a little bit, and then we were going to be hitting Ontario because we had a gig that was out there this year as well, which unfortunately was cancelled. But that's probably what we're going to do again when we do have the ability to. We do still plan to go out and tour in Toronto and surrounding area there, and we do still plan to go out and tour. It's just a matter of waiting to see what possibility there is for that, and it's also a matter of waiting to see how many venues are going to be open and what those are going to look like, you know, because no one really knows. That's the other thing, is there's a lot of venues that may not survive, unfortunately.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, like, oh, sorry, right? Continue.
Well, I was just going to say, go ahead. Yeah, I'll ask after. You were going to say about
I was gonna say it's good because the merch is, at least in Selkirk, we know that that's gonna be fine. We're actually reopening Friday. Yeah, reopening Friday for 50% capacity. There's not gonna be any shows for a while, but they are reopening, which is good. But we don't know, like no one right now currently in the industry knows at all when shows or venues or anything will be allowed to continue doing anything musical, which is unfortunate. It is. Yeah.
How's songwriting going during COVID times? Let's coin it that for now and to say it like that. And how are
songwriting? What songwriting, man? I've had a writer's block for about 2 months now. Ever since this started, I'm just like, man, I can't freaking write. And honestly, I you know what? I kind of wish that more musicians would talk about writer's blocks, because they don't.
Yeah, I've had it multiple times in my career, multiple times.
Well, yeah, and like, it happens, man. Like, it might be for a week, it might be for like months, and I like there's a lot of people who I've met who will just assume that, like, oh, can you just write me a song like this? Yeah. Like, can you just give me a piece of paper and write it down for me, and yeah, there you go, then I'll be on my way. And it's like, it doesn't it don't work like that, boy.
No.
We can't just snap our fingers and write a song. And most people assume that it's like, oh, well, you can pick up a guitar and just play it, so why can't you, write a song like that? Well, no, I honestly do think that songwriting, a lot of the time, if you want it to sound good, you have to wait for it to, like, come out of you naturally. You got to feel like you need to pen.
And on top of that, to add to that, I should say, is that so that everything isn't just clumped together, for lack of a better term, where it's all sounding the same, because the writer's block is pushing forth something that could have been written a long time ago that has the same meaning, has the same everything. It's still that writer's block. It's that acknowledgement of it and just being easy with it. That was a great explanation, as you said. It's going to happen, whether it be in these times or not. It's just a matter of how does one deal with it moving forward and just maintain originality with what's coming forth next. Because I've woke up in the middle of the night where songs have come in my head, or ideas for songs. I always have a pad and pen or the phone or something so I can write it down. So
yeah.
Right? So.
I mean, like, the earliest songs I wrote were most of them were written at 3 a.m. when I couldn't sleep and I was just sitting on my kitchen floor. So I mean, it'll strike when it strikes, man. It'll strike when it strikes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, I mean, at least for me, sometimes I'll write 6 songs in like 30 minutes. Sometimes I won't write a song for 6 months. Like, it varies. And that's the thing with, is I feel like more people should talk about it, because you can't expect someone to be able to just get over a songwriting block. Like, it's not like we're asking for them. They happen. It sucks. When you get one, you already feel bad enough because you're like, I can't write a song and this sucks, and you try to force it and it doesn't work, and you kind of hate yourself a little bit for it. But then no one really talks about how that's a thing. No one talks about, like, I definitely don't remember someone sitting down and telling me, yeah, by the way, when you're a songwriter, from time to time, every now and then, with no warning, you might not be able to write at all.
Yeah.
And it does affect you too, because you kind of get frustrated. It can really affect how you feel about music, because you're like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I write?
It exactly causes one to question himself with that, indirectly or directly, when one just sticks to the guns and realizes, this is part of the process. This is happening for a reason. If it was supposed to be written, if I was supposed to come up with something right now, it would, then that's what would have happened, right? So here's a kind of an outside the box question when it comes to festivals, because myself personally, as an MC, as a singer, I've not done outside festivals. Is that something you've done pre-COVID, so to speak?
Yeah.
Or it's something you want to do moving forward more? What's your thoughts on that?
We have done a couple outside festivals. We did do Fall Jam, which is completely outside. We have done not outside festivals, but we've done, for example, we did the Holiday Alley stuff that they had at the
Right.
merchant, and during that time they also did, oh crap, what was it called again? The whiteout thing, and they actually had something set up on the street for that, so it was outside, but it wasn't necessarily a festival.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that those are probably going to be going forward more likely, because right now packing people inside is probably less likely to be sanctioned than having a bunch of people outside in a field or something.
Yeah.
Inside, you're gonna, especially during I'm thinking pandemic rules, right? The closer people are, the more likely it is that stuff's gonna happen, right? So if you do an outside thing, though, if you do something like drive in, or you have a giant field, there's
Yeah.
more space, there's more openness, there's more chance for more people to be there, because you have you won't have everyone all packed in one small tiny space. So I do think that, like, even if they don't necessarily move a venue, they just do stuff outside of a venue, because that might be a possibility, like just doing patio stuff, right? I
Right.
do that outdoor stuff is probably going to be more the norm going forward, at least while it's warm. I don't know what it's going to look like when it's cold, but
What are your thoughts on? Oh, excellent viewpoint. Now, what are your thoughts on, say, the live performance when things have some calm to them, and still performing online? Because myself personally, I don't want to stop doing online open mics. Obviously, this podcast, talk show, however you want to word it, and performing as well. Is there going to be room with what November Underground has planned, with dropping an album, with performing live? Is that still going to be part of the mix, so to speak, with performing, doing acoustic sets online, like going live on Instagram, Facebook? Or do you feel maybe that's something that's, because of the situation we are all in, it's something to take advantage of, but it's also something that might pass in time? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that, I mean, even after the pandemic eases,
Yeah.
I think that just the audio, because like obviously people are getting more used to live streaming, because that's the thing. It wasn't really a norm. It was kind of like, people have been doing live streams for more than a couple of years now, but it was never something that was the norm. It was always like, this is the least preferred option, right? And I think that's actually part of the reason that live streams might not be as ideal right now, because it's not the the norm option. It's not exactly like we've spent time perfecting the live stream experience and how it would be done with a band. Like, how
Yeah.
many bands have actually done a live stream before this?
Yeah.
Like, no one's.
Personally, no. Until this situation happened, and I embraced it, obviously, but at the same time, it's not everyone's cup of tea, right? So
Yeah, so it's about experience. That's the thing. It's like, who
yeah.
had the experience of live streaming with a band before the pandemic? Like,
Yeah.
yes, there have been, like, for example, Clint from previously from Wrecking, so he was with them for a while. He does the live.
Yeah, Clint Champ. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't. I didn't want to butcher his last name, so I just didn't want to say it. I'm just gonna pronounce that really horribly, but it's live, right? And he had that before. So, like, for example, there are certain like places and certain companies and stuff that have done live streaming before and have done live streamings with bands before, but again, it was considered the less ideal option, right, for most people, or the, if there's nothing else we can do, we'll do a live stream, right? And like, for example, like there's going to be a difference between doing a live stream at Red Tie Live or doing a live stream in your basement with whatever the heck you have. Because the other thing, how many bands have their own equipment?
That as well. Yeah.
Right. And so honestly, what I think right now is the learning curve point of that is everyone's getting used to doing live streams as a band, doing them live and with the setup. Because the other thing too is getting used to using the streaming services and getting used to the dropping and the weird connections from time to time, because that can really be detrimental, honestly.
Absolutely.
Because like I know from, like, at least with your experiences with like Facebook Live, like when we did the Flare Airlines thing there for a bit, that dropping connection, not being able to get someone added onto the live stream easily,
Right.
it was just hassle. So it was like, even just trying to do a live stream on an unwieldy you know, media outlet can be a little bit of a problem as well. So it might also be, you know, that too is a learning curve for the companies, is how can we make this a better experience. So I think
Yeah.
right now the thing is everyone's in that learning curve kind of stage of how can we make this the most ideal because this is all we got now. You know.
No, excellent. And with communication, to truly understand a conversation, there has to be talking, listening, and there has to be that balance. Now, moving forward, and in the past as well, and currently, when it comes to the fans and what November Underground fans, what Kalyna fans are looking to hear, see, do from the band, how is that interaction any different than, say, with a friend or being on a podcast or what have you?
Honestly, the only difference for me is I get really nervous when people come up or try to talk to me because I'm just like, you want to talk to me? Like, why? I suck.
Yeah.
Honestly, it hasn't changed ever since I've been like, even when I was a solo artist to me being in a band now, it doesn't matter. I'm still an awkward potato when you try to talk to me. And the reason for that is because I'm just like, I'm not expecting people to come up and ask me stuff about the band, not because I don't think they are going to, but because I'm just like, why would you want to talk to me? Like, I'm not that great. I'm just kind of like, I'm just me. Like, even when people would come up and be like, oh, I really like that set you did, or I really like that song you did, I'd be like, what, really? Oh, thank you so much. Like, I'm always like genuinely surprised when people say that to me, because I'm not, even till this day, I'm not expecting them to. So that's kind of the difference.
That's the right attitude. That's just as a musician saying that, but also as a fan as well. And fans will appreciate that because, again, there's that word again, authenticity that comes with that. And I think you being candid like that silences an ego, whether it be you, myself, whomever who's a musician, John or Jane Doe. When they're approachable, and even if they are shy about being approachable, it's a lot better experience than meeting someone who you can't feel comfortable with, and you had this pre-notion of what they were going to be like, especially with musicians. And that's very important, especially with little kids. For all my friends and family who have children, when they want to meet their favorite musician, and if it's not the best experience, that's scarring, right? So it really is on the onus of the musician to realize that and approach it that way. And I think that's a fantastic approach that you do have to it. So we're going to finish off with the seven question. Rapid fire questions, so to speak. So I'm going to ask you these questions.
Only with 7? What is this? Come on, man.
So, what's the best advice for women musicians coming up in the industry that you have?
I would say, don't make it about being a woman. Just make it yourself. Don't push it as like I'm a woman coming up in the industry, because that's not really important to me. It's I'm a musician. That's what's important.
Right on. What hair color will you consider next?
I'm probably gonna go blonde again. Actually, I've been considering that.
Biggest misconception about you that people have as a musician or as a person? Elaborate to the extent you want to. Just a misconception, something that, well.
Half the time when I go to an open mic and I get up on stage, everyone assumes I'm gonna do screamo. To this day, my favorite quote was from some dude who heard me at an open mic. I can't believe that plaid laden dyke sings like that. He mentioned it in a good way. He wasn't like, oh my god, she sucks. He was surprised because he thought I was going to do screamo.
Instrument you like? Sorry, go ahead.
It's every time I go somewhere and for the band, they always think I'm going to like break out with some like, you know, Asking Alexandria or something, and it's like, no, dude.
Instrument you'd like to learn next, if any?
What'd you say, sorry?
Instrument you like to learn next to play, if any?
I've always wanted to try and learn the violin. Excellent. For my grandfather, because that's what he used to play. Right.
Camping or hiking?
Camping.
That was easy.
Oh yeah, I went.
Plans for more tattoos.
Pardon me?
Plans for more tattoos.
Oh man, my whole arms, my back, my legs. I have a whole like back tattoo that I've had planned for like 6 years.
Nice. And last question, will you be back on RoseNthorn Talk in the future?
Absolutely, if you allow it, my dude. I'd love to be back on. I would
Absolutely.
love.
And the feeling is mutual. Not only you're a great friend of mine personally, you're a great musician, and you have a great vision. And it's very candid and open-minded, the way you talk with me as a friend, on this on a platform like this, and as well for those who are listening and who are aspiring to be musicians. So we will talk again. I thank everybody for watching tonight. Any shout outs still, Kalyna? Anybody in general that we haven't talked base with and touched base with, I should say? Your social media?
Honestly, I'm just kind of blanking because I'm just like, I just want to say, I'm like, oh, I'm just really like, oh, thank you, Aaron. That's so nice. It's like, honestly, I feel very honored that you asked me to talk on your show. I really, really do, because you're doing something really great here, and I really appreciate you doing stuff like this and doing stuff like the Living Mic, and just, you know, giving a voice to the musicians and the people in the arts in our community. It's important. It's important work, and it's good work, and I'm proud of you for doing it, man. You do it really well. You do it really, really well, and I'm honored to be on here, my dude. I'm honored. Thank
you. You're welcome. And with social media, where can people get a hold of you? At your personal social media, November Underground, which would you prefer? Facebook?
Honestly, I don't really use my personal page or anything that much, so there's kind of no point going there. But if you go, we have a Facebook page, we have Instagram, we have Twitter. We're working on getting stuff, but we have an OnlyFans now.
Nice.
Yeah, we're literally strictly posting band stuff, because our whole point was, if we have an OnlyFans, it'll be great. People will be scrolling through looking at nude pictures, and they'll just see a band, and they'll be like, what? And they'll have to look at it, because they'll be like, what the heck is this?
Well, on that note, I just want to mention, I can't wait to perform with November Underground again in the future when we cross that bridge. This will be replaying, folks, on my Instagram Live. You can either go to my story on one side or live. This will be playing for 24 hours. It'll be on my YouTube page, or YouTube channel, I should say, Aaron Marshall Clark. You'll see all the episodes of RoseNthorn Talk. Kalyna, I can't thank you enough. This is amazing, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Thank you, Aaron. Honestly, it was a freaking honor to be on here, and it was an amazing time having to talk with you. It was great. You're one of my favorite friends, my dude, one of my best friends, and it was just an amazing time. It was. Thanks to everyone who's watching and who has been watching since the start. I feel like I've been doing this for years. It's been like a month and a half, but I'm passionate about this, and this is a clear example of why. So everyone have a great night. Kalyna, I'll talk with you soon, and we'll go from there. Yeah, talk to you later, man. Okay, bye. Bye.